All right, today on the Foodscaper podcast, I am talking with Amber McLain, worker owner at Nashville Foodscapes, where she is the installation department head and project manager. And unlike so many of our guests who are often founders or owners, Amber came up through the ranks of the company, rising from crew member and crew leader, and now to project manager and even worker owner. We'll get into what it means to manage installs in the heat of a Tennessee summer and how she keeps her crew motivated and the strategies and systems that make projects run smoothly. Such important stuff. Amber brings a perspective from the ground level of foodscaping, showing us what it really takes to bring edible landscapes to life week after week. Thank you for joining us, Amber. Let's get started by hearing your elevator spiel when people ask, what do you do for work and what is Nashville Foodscapes all about?
Yeah, can do. Thanks so much for having me. If somebody asks me what I do for work, sometimes I'll say I work for Nashville Foodscapes, so people usually get kind of hung up on the word foodscape. So I usually say I work for an edible and ecological landscaping company, and we offer design, installation, maintenance, and education services. We typically specialize in vegetable and pollinator gardens. We also do orchards, food forests. Native and drought tolerant landscapes is a new one for us. We do a lot of natural hardscaping, so patios and pathways, and we do rainwater catchment and management systems as well. So we do quite a bit, and it's evolved over the years. But we kind of focus on bringing abundance through the work that we do. So feeding humans, feeding pollinators, feeding birds, just kind of like bringing habitat to life through all the work that we do.
Yeah. Ah, the why of do we do this? I feel like it's so well answered for me in my heart when I hear you say that. It's just like bringing all these passions to people, to our communities. And we're going to talk today about your work as a project manager and a worker owner. But, it seems like you're well suited to take on the marketing and communications because you communicated that beautifully and clearly. Like, you're so just well versed in what it is that you do. I imagine you've answered that question before.
Yes, I have. And we've also tried to work where everybody on our team feels comfortable sharing that message versus playing it down. So it's something we've worked really hard to try to communicate.
How do you all do that? What does that look like practically?
It started with just a team meeting, and like we do quarterly team meetings where we go through like company stuff, and we get people to ask questions. And that just came up in one of our meetings because we were like, well, what do you say when somebody asks you? And sometimes somebody like, well, they'll say I work for a landscaping company, but it's so much more than that. And so somebody said that, and we all were just like, whoa. Like we just kind of encouraged our whole team to be like, well, we all want to be able to say more and not play it down, and also say it in a way where somebody doesn't think we work for like an edible arrangements company, which we've gotten a few times, which is kind of funny.
Oh, I've gotten that so many times. My favorite
Yeah,
is that people think I do like food photography.
yeah,
That is such a really cool thing when you're part of a bigger team like you are because
hmm
everybody has a stake in the marketing of the business because so much business inevitably is just going to come by talking about the work out and about in the
hmm
world, telling our partners and their partners telling their people and our friends telling their people. And if we can effectively communicate what we do, then we stand a lot better chance of like just getting those like warm referrals through the network.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We try to encourage our team to be like, we're all, because everybody has a path to ownership, so we're like, we all can bring in jobs. Like that's the goal. We all love this company. We want to create more work. We just want to keep doing what we're doing.
Yep. So I feel like we have a good idea of what it is that Nashville Foodscapes does. Give us this story of your entry into Nashville Foodscapes and how you kind of like rose and your responsibilities evolved and changed over time.
Yeah, yeah. So I had the luck of joining Nashville Foodscapes in 2020. Before that, I had been farming for 2 years at a farm called Caney Fork Farms. It's an hour east of Nashville. And then COVID hit, and I was planning to leave the farm, but it kind of got cut short all of a sudden because of the pandemic. And so I moved back to Nashville, and was looking for work. And one of my old colleagues from the farm had been working at Nashville Foodscapes for maybe a year or two already, and he reached out to me and was like, "Are you looking for work? Are you interested in joining our team?" Because starting around that time, Nashville Foodscapes began to boom, um, which I think we've heard has happened to a lot of other foodscaping companies and a lot of other landscaping companies. So it just kind of worked out, and I was like, "Yes, I need a job. This company sounds really cool." Didn't really know much about it. I knew I'd met Jeremy or heard Jeremy speak at a workshop previously, so I was a kind of aware of him. Um, and so I just kind of fell into it and then joined as the crew member. I kind of did the track that now everybody who joins Nashville Foodscapes, this is the track that we do. Everybody starts on the crew. We do a 30 and a 90-day trial period. And so I did that for about a year. And then um, because my background was in farming, I also had a little bit of a background in woodworking. In the winters when I was farming, I would take time off just because our winters here, there isn't a lot you can grow, and would work in a furniture shop that one of my friends' dads owned. So we would do like fine woodworking and building tables and all these sorts of things. So that gave me a good kind of introduction into that. So I was able to kind of bring in this background of farming vegetables and the carpentry, which worked because we build gardens. We build and maintain gardens as like our bread and butter. So um, that allowed for me to kind of fit into that crew position pretty well. And then just as I got more familiar, learned the work, and kind of strove for more. I think that's kind of my personality. I like to grow and evolve, and I was loving learning how Nashville Foodscapes worked, and I just wanted more. And so a position opened up for me to become what we call an installation manager. Um, they're the ones kind of leading the crews in the field. And so after a year, I started training for that. Um, and then have done that. I still do a little bit of installation managing, but have moved more into project managing now, which I can explain the differences. We've been like clarifying those roles is something that's been really important for us over the last 2 years. Um, but yeah, it was growing and just learning the work, and then realizing there were more responsibilities that were opening up that I could use my skill sets for and use my passion for. And then it just slowly evolved, which it does for everybody in the company. Everybody kind of starts as a crew. You kind of learn the ropes, you find what your strengths are, and then we see what other avenues that they can grow into, whether that's with our maintenance program or installation or more of like the sales, marketing, or administrative side.
Yeah. Yeah, I find that to be such an exciting part about being with a company that has a little bit of size to it, is that you
Mm-hmm.
can actually grow into the thing that you're wanting to focus more of your energy on and continue to evolve the work that you're doing. It sounds like you just like excelled in the roles that you were in, and like bam, 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 were able
Mm-hmm.
to take on more responsibility and follow those passions of yours, as you mentioned. So, well, I'm interested. So just give us the rundown on like how do you differentiate project management versus install management?
Yes. So there are two roles that kind of sit side by side in our company structure. And so the project manager is the one, they're taking the lead. They're going on the consultations, meeting with the clients. They're the ones building out the proposals, basically prepping and planning to get a sale. And then once a job gets approved, the project manager basically takes that job and passes it to the installation manager. And then the installation manager is the one who's leading that job in the field. So the project manager is kind of like their sales and design and like project coordination. Um, and then the installation manager is also coordination, but they're the one physically in the field leading the crew, executing the job. And
Amazing. So
yeah,
are you doing consultations now?
yes, I'm doing consultations, and I was playing a supportive role with consultations before, but we have I think we have 4 project managers, so that depending on what the lead is that comes into the interest of the client, we'll send a different project manager just because everybody has kind of a different background and experience level. So we kind of take the person who's the right fit, and then they go do the consultation and then take that job through the pipeline.
Yeah. How big is Nashville Foodscapes?
We have 12 people with us right now. Yeah. 12 employees and 7 worker owners.
Yeah. I just want to point out how incredibly powerful your track is, in my experience, to being really good at your job. Because, like, if you have installed the garden before, you're going to be such a good designer because you'll have experienced all of the challenges of, oh, this weird site and this access issue and all the steps that you need to do to prep. I mean, I don't know if you have any more to say about that, but it just seems like paramount importance to being a good
Oh,
designer and constantly.
100%. Yeah, yeah. And that's why it's very intentional that we start everybody who comes in as a crew member, no matter their background. Like we've had people, like we hired a woman 2 years ago who, like, her farming experience was out of this world. Like she's done so many things, but she started as a crew just because people have to learn the company. They have to learn like our processes, our how we install gardens, how we install hardscapes, like the groundwork of it. Because every company does it a little bit differently. So they learn our processes, and then yeah, they can move up into design or how to do a sale. And we've also, the feedback we've gotten from our crew is that it is a very, everybody enjoys that track. You know, I think it would be very difficult for somebody to come in as just like a designer and they're having to, they would just, I think, have a lot more questions than could be answered, you know?
Yeah, that is super inspiring to me. I feel like it's like, yep, I really want to do that. That sounds
Mm-hmm.
brilliant. Um, and really just like, of course, like everybody is just going to have such a great understanding if they've already gone through that trajectory. I love that you're putting that, just making that an institutionalized component of the work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
You said earlier that you were you finished your year and then you went through a training to be an install manager. Is that what I understood? So
Yes.
that is like a formalized point in your trajectory where it's like, okay, now I'm going through a training. I don't just become an install manager. What does that training?
That training means we strategize what jobs could fit, like especially for like my track. I was more specific to the building, so building raised beds, like all of our structures. That was kind of my track. um and so, well, my track, it didn't look quite like, it didn't quite look like this. Mine was a lot of trial and error, but what it looks like now is that if we have somebody, like we just last year we hired somebody to fill my role as our like building installation manager. And so what that looked like is slowly he would co-lead with me on different jobs. So he would go to our site visit, we would talk about the job site, we would talk about what the planning process was going to be like, this, all the things that we needed to do in advance, um, showing him the systems that we have in place to make that process more streamlined, and just slowly kind of passing off more and more responsibility. But like we do a lot of things like, it's kind of like, I guess what I said, the co-leading, or like working in tandem. So he feels supported and he's not just being thrown into a project full force, because that was kind of my initial experience, and we've had that in the past, but that was just because we didn't have capacity, and now we have capacity and we understand that can be difficult for someone. So we just try to like guide people through it, until they're comfortable enough and they feel good about leading a job. And then typically the first job they would lead is something that's a little bit smaller so that they can kind of find their footing, they can get comfortable, and then it kind of grows from there. And that process could take, like, I think the guy we hired to be kind of the building installation manager, he maybe led 2 or 3 jobs with me, and then kind of once he was comfortable started leading from there. So it can be a process that maybe takes longer for somebody if they need more support, or if somebody's like, no, I'm good, I got it, and then we're like, okay, great, we have full trust and we'll follow up if you need support.
Brilliant. I love it. I love
Mm-hmm.
it. Um, One of the other things you mentioned earlier, because so many of the things you said just have resonated or inspired me and created new questions for me here, was the fact that you worked in this woodworking shop in addition to farming. And I feel like so
Mm-hmm.
many of us are on this farming track where or maybe we're just gardeners, but then running an installation, driving trucks and trailers, doing all the construction, grading work, skid steers, irrigation, it's all so new, and it's like making that transition is one of the things that I'm always focusing on with the work of the Foodscaper. And you had this woodworking
Hmm.
gig going on, and I just think, I guess I just want to point out how like all the little experiences we have are so applicable in the foodscaping industry, because it seems like whatever side job, side hustle you've had in the past, you're probably using it now that you work for a foodscaping company or something.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. I can't imagine coming into this work without that background. And plenty of people do. I would say so many of our crew members come in with a farming background, kind of like you said, so many of us do. But the building, I think, that one was key for me.
One of the things we hear from pro foodscapers all the time is this need for more community, connection, and education. And that's why we've created the Foodscaper membership. This is our online forum and learning space just for pro foodscapers. You can share your work, get feedback from me and other professionals, and watch dozens of classes in our training library. It's just $29. First month is free. We would love to see you there. Do you ever think about this whole path to financial stability
Hmm.
within farming to foodscaping? Like, that is a story that really was central for me, and I'm just curious if you've thought about it much. Like, I was like, man, this market gardening stuff, like growing organic fruits and vegetables, so hard. B, really hard to make a living. I don't have
Hmm.
land. Like, and then the foodscaping thing is just like, well, yeah, I can align my
Hmm.
passions basically in the same way, but like have kind of a normal life.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. You just, yeah, hit the nail on the head. I feel the exact same way. Um, and like when I was farming, it was never my own operation. I worked for a wealthy landowner who could like pay me a certain hourly rate, and that was totally fine. And in a way, I knew I was really lucky to have that, having other farming friends who were running their own operations and just seeing like the grind of it. And realizing if I were to leave this farm, it's like, what are my opportunities? Yeah, I can't buy land, I can't buy equipment. I'm 24 years old at the time. I was like, I can't do any of these things. Um, and also getting older and slowly learning that like having financial stability is really important. Um, and so falling into Nashville Foodscapes, I was like, wow, I didn't know this was an opportunity that I could do to bridge my experiences and also like build a to kind of build a life and build a living. I thought I was going to have to leave farming and find something totally different. So it was really lucky, yeah. And I understand now why it feels like foodscaping or edible and ecological landscaping is a growing industry, and I've got to imagine it's a lot of farmers.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it just makes so much sense. Cool. I'm glad to hear that resonates. Did you have
Hmm.
a did you have experience on the farm or before, like managing crews or anything like that?
Not big crews. I worked. There was. I had I just worked with one other girl. It was a market garden operation, so it was pretty small. So it was just working with one person. So coming into the installation manager position at Nashville Foodscapes, leading a crew up to the biggest crew we would do is maybe 5 folks. So not crazy. Um, but the like having to fully plan out and an installation and then get my head around it, learn how to do it, and then bring a crew into it and being like, wait, how do I direct all of these people, like kind of set the pace, set the expectation, and then find that balance of keeping people on track without micromanaging, but then also not having too like sitting too far in the background where like we're not kind of meeting the goal or meeting the standard of the job, you know. So I found that to be quite the balance to strike. But I don't know. I think you learn as you go. I think experience is the most important thing. Like each job that I led, or as time went by, it got easier and easier. So I think the experience was a huge part of it, and then having the support of other managers or of our leadership team was a big part. Like I think I quickly had to learn. I was like, hey, I'm kind of struggling. I don't know how to do this. So asking the managers next to me or even like relying on my crew, like we're lucky enough to where we have so many people who have now been with the company for a long time and have their own well of knowledge and experience. So being like, this isn't all on me, you know, I don't have to be the sole person to do this. I have a well experienced team. So learning to delegate, learning to rely on other people, I think that was the biggest thing for me.
Yeah. You teed up so much of what we want to talk about today,
Hmm.
which is how do we actually manage a crew, manage an installation, think about all of the different pieces of the puzzle here and make sure that yeah, people's attitudes are being considered and the weather and all
Hmm.
that stuff. So we'll get there. But one
Hmm.
more question or maybe two about just your past. I wonder about what experiences you may have had as a kid that really set you up to thrive in this. And that can go back like to your small childhood or, siblings, anything.
Yeah. Yeah. When I initially saw that question, I was like, huh, what is it? And I think it comes down to, honestly, for me, it was playing sports growing up, like all through growing up and then into college. It taught me, it's taught me so many life lessons, but I think the biggest thing, especially for farming and this line of work, is it taught me grit to just like barrel down, do the hard work, like shovel, move the wheelbarrows, because I feel like our work is just so much of it is moving materials. It's really hard, it's sweaty. Um, so learning kind of that, the endurance of it, the physicality of it, I think that, and also the mindset of like, I want success, I want the team to win, I want us to feel like a unit. So I think for most jobs that I've worked, that has led kind of guided me for how I go through, um, how I kind of, well, what am I trying to say? Um, yeah, has guided me for the type of like employee I want to be or like the company that I work for.
Yeah. Have you ever had a mentor?
I've had I've had a few, not any long term. I had two really good college, two really great college professors. Like I went to a small liberal arts school, so and I was in a small like environmental science and sustainability program. So we were a small program, and I had two really great professors who have helped. They helped guide me so much when I was leaving college. Um, and then since, especially moving to the world and job transitions, and then I had a really great farming mentor who I met right out of college, who is still now a very dear friend.
That's the best. What do you think
Mm-hmm.
makes like an amazing mentor?
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
I just
I
want us
mean,
all to be thinking about showing up as mentors to other people in our lives,
yeah,
right? Thinking about
yeah,
how do we want to show up? Like, what does it mean to show up as a mentor to somebody or to become a mentor to somebody?
totally. I mean, one, I think it's like the willingness to like listen to somebody, like kind of put yourself in their shoes, especially because usually, like if I'm seeking out a mentor, it's because they have the experience or the knowledge or this perspective that I don't quite yet have. And so being able for them to be like, okay, I know I was where you were once, and then being able to offer kind of perspective with or without judgment, maybe, where it's like it's a safe space type of thing. Um, but yeah, what I remember is just like the mentors that I was relying on. I was like, you have so much knowledge that like I don't yet have, and I really do respect kind of their feedback and their perspective and their guidance. Um, but I think yeah, that willingness to kind of meet me where I was and like listen to me. Um, and then probably be able to like decipher through what I was probably trying to articulate and not able to articulate well. Like that's what I found that helpful, where people can kind of help me sort through my thoughts, because I can sometimes have a hard time with that kind of articulation, um, and trying to gather what I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah. Man, I love your answer so much because the obvious thing that a mentor provides is like wisdom and knowledge
Mm-hmm.
and they'll solve your problems, right? But
Mm-hmm.
what I heard
Yeah.
from you that really just like sunk deep into my soul was this idea that a person who you deeply respect is going to actually listen to you and
Mm-hmm.
hear what's going on with you and try to truly understand your problems and do some deep listening with you. Like, what an
Mm-hmm.
honor that is if somebody who you deeply respect is giving you that kind of attention.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Especially as a young person, like in my early 20s, where I'm just trying to figure out the world. It meant everything, and truly has guided me so far. Like the reason I ended up at the farm where I worked was because of one of those mentors.
Yeah. And now you have the chance to kind of be not necessarily a mentor, maybe a mentor, but definitely somebody that people within Nashville Foodscapes can look up to. So I'm curious,
Hmm.
what makes a standout crew member, for especially considering that a lot of people listening to this might be starting off as crew members?
Yeah, no, I love that question. This is something that whenever we hire new people, there's like, we always get really jazzed when new people come in and we're like, oh man, they're stellar. Like, this is awesome. Um, I would say I'm literally thinking of our entire team now that has come in as crew members. There's so many things about them that watching them kind of come in and grow has been so exciting. I mean, the biggest thing is just the passion that people bring in. Like they'll come into a job and they're so willing, they're willing to kind of stop and listen and learn. Um, like we want people to come in and like work really hard and do that work. Like that is huge because this work is really hard. So they have to be willing to sweat, to kind of be on the heat, to be on the element. So they have that grit about them as well, and that um, kind of willingness to work hard, but the ability for them to kind of listen as they're coming in, even if they have, like many of our people know how to farm, but we in we kind of ask them like, hey, I know you have this experience and I want you to bring that to the table, but we're going to kind of show you how we do it at Nashville Foodscapes because these processes are important for us to be able to deliver this product basically. Um, and so that's one, the willingness to like kind of stop and listen and take that feedback. And then the other one that we love to ask people, because when new people come in, they're offering fresh perspectives, they're offering their own wealth of knowledge. We really love it when they can kind of come in and offer insights or feedback on like the work. Like if they have a suggestion for how we can improve building our raised beds, if they're like, hey, I know this product that we could use, or we could fill raised beds a different way. We can have this piece of equipment that could help us execute the job better. Like we love that. Yeah. And we've also invited them into it. Like that's what we try to do that. We're like, hey, we want that perspective. We want to invite you in to help our company grow.
Yeah, that I applaud that. That's always such a slippery slope, and it is so beautiful in practice, and it feels so good, especially being that new person. But
Hmm.
whew, without
Yeah.
awareness on the part of the new person to be like, yeah, maybe they've thought through some of these things too, and
Uh-huh.
to not be that person that's like kind of nagging with ideas that requires a lot of just like social IQ. I forget, whatever that
Yes, there is a balance. There is a balance to that for sure. We're like, yes, yeah, I want your insight, but I also want you to listen to your installation manager who's been doing this for a while.
Taking a quick break to remind you about our monthly Pro Talks. These are free, live, continuing education classes taught by some of the most inspiring ecological, edible landscapers in the business. These Pro Talks give you foodscaper education that you truly can't find anywhere else. So join us each month. If you're a member, you'll also get the recording. Enroll in the next Pro Talk at foodscaper.com/Pro Talks. Speaking of balance, like one of the things that I think is so hard as an installation manager is balancing the teaching of new skills versus
Hmm.
saving time in the moment, especially when it's like the second half of the day after lunch and I'm already thinking about like packing up the truck and getting people home on time. It's like
Yeah.
2 o'clock in the afternoon and you're like doing something that is a bit unique and tricky. And it's like, okay, this is a potential teachable moment. Like, how do
Hmm.
you decide whether or not you're gonna like bear down and actually say, hey, let's do this thing together. I'm gonna teach you this, or like there's this thing going on. I'm just gonna like we got to get out of here on time, and I'm gonna do it.
Yes, absolutely. That is, yeah. When I was first becoming an installation manager, I was like, this is so hard. How do I balance doing all of this? But I would say one way that we've talked a lot about that as a team. How do we navigate this? And so I think the way that we've tried to do it, like specific for training, is um, when we bring somebody in, like we'll meet as a team. Like we meet every Monday as a leadership team, and we do a lot of department meetings on Mondays to do like our scheduling, seeing what jobs are in our pipeline that we either need to get prepped, we need to send a proposal out, or we need to get it scheduled. And when we schedule jobs, we assign our trucks, we assign our crews, and so when we do that and we know we have a new team member, we try to really strategize what jobs we're putting them on and how we're going about it. And so if we know we want to train somebody on how we do hardscaping, we like to be okay. This job is going to be training. So it's usually maybe, at least when we can, we try to do it where it's like maybe a smaller job, like the scope. If we're doing a pathway, the pathway is one that's maybe a little bit smaller that we can invite this crew member into doing, so it doesn't feel like this massive undertaking, and there's a little more flexibility with the team if it's a smaller job, which maybe we don't always have the luxury for. We can't always plan what jobs we have coming in, so but if when we can, we try to do that. And then one way we do it is most jobs that we work, if it's different tasks, we try to pair people up. So if I'm an installation manager trying to keep oversight, I will either be like, okay, if it's a crew of 4 and we have one new crew member, I'm going to pair them up with one person on the team who I know, either myself or somebody else who knows how to do our hardscaping, and they'll kind of like give them the lesson through it. And in a way, there is an inefficiency in a way because the training takes longer, but I think we try to do those things at the front end to eliminate where we're like, oh crap, it's 3 p.m. We're not there yet. I can't just throw this person into this role. So we've almost had to learn this level of patience with ourselves, and kind of planning for the inefficiencies and trying to just like strategize the best way to go about it.
Yeah. Yeah, the key takeaway I'm hearing from you is just like thinking about it ahead of time at these scheduling meetings,
Mm-hmm.
thinking
Mm-hmm.
about maybe it's not this very specific task like I was thinking, like a 2 p.m. thing that's happening. It's like already scheduled in ahead of time that
Mm-hmm.
this person is going to kind of use this job and these skills that are happening on that job as a
Mm-hmm.
learning and growth opportunity.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And then I would say as the installation manager, I do some training, but I also try to delegate that out to one of my more skilled crew members. Like I found that to be a really helpful thing for myself, just because the installation manager already has so much that they're trying to keep track of and keep the whole project on task. So if whenever I could find a way to delegate the training, I will.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like that's kind of a mantra. Like, if you can delegate, yes.
Oh my gosh,
If
yes,
there's
yes.
anything. One of the things I was thinking about when you were talking there is how I believe you all don't have a maintenance department and an install department. That when you're at those scheduling meetings, you kind of have people who are like they swing between
Mhm.
those that work. Can you describe that and how you all manage that?
Yes, 100%. So we we do call them two separate departments. Like I'm our head of installation. We have a guy named Zach who is our head of maintenance. So we view them as two separate departments. The client lists are totally separate, and our like our CRM, we keep all of that very separate. But we do, when we have our leadership team in our scheduling meeting, it's 4 of us sitting in there, and then we're just looking at our CRM, and all of our maintenance clients, our install clients that are need to be scheduled show up together, and then we kind of schedule those, and we can kind of we do that at the same time so that we know if there's an installation happening this week, we know what crew is assigned to those. Then we're not having an overlap with folks' maintenance sites. So that's how we do the scheduling. But the as far as like crew and managers, everybody basically wears a bunch of hats on the team. So installation managers are also maintenance site managers and vice versa. So like we have a team of 12. Not everybody on the crew is necessarily on the field. I would say maybe 8 of us are in the field regularly, either leading installations, leading maintenance. Um, but I guess a better way to say it is like everybody on the team will act as a crew member. or they'll be leading a maintenance site, or they'll be stepping in as an installation manager. So there's a lot of hats.
Yeah, I love the cross training because it really just promotes so much flexibility and growth within the company and keeping things fresh and interesting
Mm-hmm.
and giving people that 360 perspective of what it takes to get the work done. Because ultimately, you just end up respecting your coworkers so much more when you know what they've got on their plate.
Oh my gosh, yeah, yeah. And respecting that no matter like even though I'm on our leadership team and I have a lot of administrative work, I'm also in the field regularly with a new crew member. And we just hired a guy earlier this year and I was talking with him and he was like, I love the fact that everybody at some point has their hands in the dirt and I'm working next to them. Like I think you really feel this sense of camaraderie.
Hmm. That is so key. I feel like it's this unspoken component to just job satisfaction. Like not
Mm-hmm.
even just what you do, but knowing that what you do is something that other people do.
Yeah, yeah,
Really
absolutely.
puts. So some questions about just like how to keep a team in good spirits, because that's really what we're talking about here is like how do you keep vibes high? How do you keep
Mm-hmm.
people's from getting salty or feeling like what am I doing? Why did I get this again? Like Nashville,
Mm-hmm.
not a particularly cold place, especially in the summer.
No.
Like, how do you keep people motivated? It's 100 degrees and it's the afternoon and during the summer.
Yeah, that is a great question, and it is a challenge. I think what we try to do is, well, one, we provide like we know it's going to be a hot day, so we're like, okay, we've got all the snacks, we've got the drinks, we've got the hydration packs, we've got the cooler full of ice. So we're like, the crew is taken care of in that way. Um, and then when we're on a site, we're like, okay, here's the scope of the job. We know this is the goal for the day, and this work is important. We all love this work, but so we just try to communicate and be like, hey, this is the scope, but also take breaks. Like doing this task is important, but your health is more important. So trying to strive that balance and know people are allowed to like go at their own pace. They're allowed to take a break when they need it. Um, so we kind of do that, and then on a hot day, we try to end a little early, just because we all
Mm.
know it sucks, and we're like, okay, we're gonna go until maybe 3 today. We'll come back tomorrow. Um, so we kind of do that. But I think the thing that helps us is, I think, and I think our crew, I think we feel really lucky about this, but our crew is very passionate about the work. Like there's a lot of autonomy in everybody's roles because everybody in a way is kind of a manager at this point. So there's like some self motivation for the work itself that I I don't know if we've instilled it or it's just we're lucky enough that these are the people who have come in and maybe it's the cooperative. Um, but I think the biggest thing is just like on a job site when it's a hard day is just like communicating, not pushing people over their boundaries, um, and yeah, just taking care of each other.
Yeah, of course you all are a worker-owned cooperative, which we're going to get to, because
Mm-hmm.
everything we're talking about is just in the spirit of being a worker-owned cooperative. So I can't wait to get to that part of the podcast here. But um, what about? I'm going to give an example here.
Mm-hmm.
Do you ever say things like, "Okay, we've got like these 100 plants that we need to get in before 3. Let's make this a power hour." That motivating piece to like, hey, let's crank up the juice and like how to say that in a respectful way or how to demonstrate it, how to
Mm.
model it, how to manifest it. What, what's
Mm.
what's your secret sauce?
Oh, what is my secret sauce? Um, that is a great question. Let's see. I would say, yeah, 3 p.m. we have 100 plants. I'm like, okay, guys, we're gonna break up into teams. Nobody's gonna be working by themselves because this is too hard. So we're gonna work up. We're gonna turn the speaker up. We're gonna play some music that everybody can vibe to. Um, and then we're gonna work. And I think it's also being like, hey, before we even do that, I'm like, hey guys, we have this left. Is everybody okay to continue to work this out? I think it's kind of that check-in. Um, I think that's how I do it because I'm just so concerned about not over pushing our crew that I'm like, hey guys, are we good to do this? And everybody's usually like, yeah, I can do it. Or if somebody's like, hey, I'm kind of struggling. So I'm like, okay, you go work with those two. Y'all three are gonna work on this project together. And we're just gonna crank out as much as we can. So I would say that. I would say we're gonna do water, we're gonna do music, and then we're gonna work it all out together.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds beautiful. And I think that if that check-in comes from the heart, it just is
Hmm.
like such a paradigm shift for the way that work culture typically is, where there's
Yeah.
not even that notion just doesn't even exist, and we get to rewrite that narrative.
Yeah, yeah. Like I don't think none of our managers are the type that are like, hey, go like I don't know, like we try not to be forceful, you know? It's like we're all very collaborative bunch doing check-ins, like working as a team. So the like making kind of demands or that kind of stuff we try to avoid in like in a harsh way. Because I think we've all been in those types of environments and they just don't really foster health.
Totally. And I think it comes down so much to hiring, right? Like getting
Hmm.
the people that vibe. But then if you go to your website and you talk to people about, Nashville Foodscapes being this worker-owned cooperative and the beautiful mission that you all are putting into the world, you're going to attract the people who want to be a part of that, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So before you talked about this long game thinking, this planning, you're kind of, I'm picturing like a football coach kind of like going through the game notes, thinking about the,
Hmm.
game on Sunday kind of thing. And that is so key when you're a project manager, right? To
Hmm.
keeping everybody in motion. So what kind of pregame routine do you have before starting a
Hmm.
project, or any systems, anything that you are doing,
Hmm.
especially that you feel like could be interesting takeaways for other foodscapers to get really clear and to feel like you can not only map things out for yourself, but for the crew who's going to be standing there waiting for your direction.
100%. That is something like I feel like our mission for the past couple of years is removing any ambiguity that exists. That's been a huge focus, and that starts from the time that a proposal starts getting made. The notes that are going into that proposal for the crew are very clear, like from the entire timeline of the job to the hours that are going into each kind of work area. Like the crew has access to all of that, and all of that is getting once the proposal is ready and accepted, that gets put into a Slack channel with the project manager, the installation manager, and their whole crew. So they have that. They get any if there's a design, the design goes in Slack, the job notes go into Slack, and then we've also created this checklist that is shared by the project manager and the installation manager, where they're responsible for meeting in advance to go through who's responsible for what. So they check off and make notes of who's responsible for renting equipment, ordering the plants, making sure the lumber is there, all of that kind of stuff. Um, and so everybody who's a part of the job has access to that in Slack. um, so that's all there. And then the day before a job, the installation manager posts the scope of the next day, and they post the entire load up list that the crew the next morning when they meet at our headquarters at 8 a.m. They've got everything they know they're going to need to know to get going to the job. Um, and then something that we've kind of tried to um, do we don't always do it, but like we call it I don't remember what we call it, but basically like a pre-drive load up or a pre-job conversation, where the installation manager on the drive over is going to kind of tell the crew what the scope of the day is going to be. Like once we get there, we're going to do this. We're going to start with unloading and kind of these areas, and then here's the first step for the job. So that'll kind of be the drive there, and then once we get on the site, usually before we even unload the installation manager will walk the site with the crew to kind of give them the lay of the land. So they're kind of explaining what the job is going to look like, what the first steps are going to be, where we're going to unload, and then we'll start unloading. So it's honestly just as much communication and information that we can get to the crew in advance as possible. The last thing I was to say, like we've gotten that feedback from our crew before we started just unloading all this information. They were like, I kind of want to know more about the job before I go in. Like I just feel like I get there and I'm like, oh, this is what we're doing.
Hey friends, we are wrapping up the first portion of our interview here, but you can listen to the full episode inside the Foodscaper membership. Members get access to the complete episode, our full library of training videos, and a community forum where you can get feedback on your work and make professional connections as you build your edible landscaping career. Get that first month free at thefoodscaper.com/membership. And thank you so much for listening. Keep growing.